Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Capcan and today I'm gonna be your Path of Exile historian. We're gonna be talking about Synthesis League, its legacy, and how the league itself was going when it was live. So, Synthesis was released in quite a long time ago in 2019, in March. It was before Path of Exile 2 first announcement, it was before first ExileCon, and the league itself was quite controversial whenever it released, but nowadays people are quite fond of it, and they, as nostalgia always goes, many people resemble this league and they think that league was quite a good one, even though whenever it was launched, not many people really loved Synthesis. So what Synthesis did in general, whenever you were mapping, whenever you were in regular locations, you were finding these memory fragments. You had to stabilize them, basically run to different parts of that memory fragment, and then you will get your fragment for the overall big synthesized maps, and then you will structure this Carcassonne-esque layouts, trying to forge them together and get good nice paths, good nice layouts to multiply all the rewards, to get all the best rewards in the latest parts of those maps. So basically it was like a separate mapping system, but with Carcassonne style of layouting those, and you were getting pretty good rewards there. In general, unique parts that Synthesis brought to Path of Exile was, of course, synthesized bases and fractured items. Fractured items are the items where you have some mod that will never be changed whenever you craft that item. So basically this mod is printed on that item, and those items were first introduced in Synthesis. Synthesized bases are bases with some unique implicit to that item. You could have crafted those in Synthesized League by combining 3 fractured items with some specific mods. Nowadays you can only find some specific synthesized items in Cortex and maps like that, in Venarius Distant Memories. So we do have some sorts of synthesis content present in the game in general, as Cortex itself with Venarius Battle, and then other Venarius Distant Memories where you can find different interesting stuff. Just in general, fractured items can drop in regular from regular rare mobs and stuff. Synthesized ones you can get them from different parts of the game too. And in general, in terms of how fractured and synthesized items went on with their history, it's already 4 years ago that this league was created. In my opinion, in terms of the legacy of the league, it was definitely a well done one. So yeah, the legacy of the league in terms of end game, you basically have kind of pinnacle boss in terms of Cortex. You have kind of Guardian-esque boss fights with Venarius Altered Memories. You have a pretty good mechanic that many people use, both in SSF and in Trade League, in terms of fractured and synthesized items. You do have all the many uniques from Cortex, and from fights with bosses themselves are still more than usable, and they are quite powerful ones, to be honest. So basically the mechanics themselves, synthesized implicits and fractures, are more than success, and they definitely have a legacy in Path of Exile. They definitely have their imprint on everything that we play with today. But the mechanic itself, the league mechanic itself, that was introduced in League, and that mechanic league wasn't, of course, transferred to the core league, so we don't have a synthesized, that synthesis Carcassonne-esque gameplay. And it was a very rough system that had quite a good idea on top of it, so you were building those layouts, but the implementation of it was drastically lower in a lower in a lower part of the spectrum that you can introduce something like that. Those parts that you were creating your paths through, they were finite. They had multiple uses of them, so it's basically you constantly had to refill your paths with some parts, and they were all different levels. They were, so basically mobs were different levels. You constantly needed to, there were a cap of you having, if I recall correctly, 15 or something like this of them stored, and if you go off that cap, then, well, you lose some of those parts. Some of parts were good, some were bad, but in general the micromanagement of that system was taking so much time, and people didn't really like to do it because it was a very big distraction from your regular mapping cycle. It wasn't like it was, you had to basically sometimes do something with that mechanic, because otherwise you were losing content, you were losing some valuable parts of your synthesis. And even though it looked very fun from whenever we were watching it in trailer, whenever you were playing the mechanic, it wasn't really the best implementation. It was a distraction, and people quite hated synthesis whenever it was finishing. So whenever it was, just in general, after a week or two of playing that mechanic, people really hated synthesis, and they didn't really want it to stay in the game. And to be honest, it's a shame, because the system itself, with how it looked, with how it felt in terms of just atmosphere, was a very cool one. And it was one of those systems that could have been like Delve, that could have been like Syndicate, that could have been an alternative to mapping process in some ways, if the implementation with those shards was better. If basically if they were to redesign if they were to stay with the stylistic part of the mechanic and redesign how you acquire those pieces, how you build them and stuff. Maybe do it like Sanctum nowadays, that you have more of a roguelike. So basically you are getting one synthesis ticket, and then you can go into synthesis and build there. It has some item level, and you are presented with a bunch of parts from synthesis, and then you can build your layout and play through it once, get all the rewards, and then you're out. And that was your synthesis experience for I don't know, 10 or 15 these layouts. They are not as big as maps, so it would have been faster, but it would have been something if they've managed to do it in this roguelike type of experience like Sanctum is. It would have been cool. And I think it would have been an interesting alternative, but it's probably was hard for them to do back then, 4 years ago, because they didn't have the game itself was still way more rough, and it was way more raw, and they didn't have as much experience with utilizing systems like this. We still didn't have itemized alvas, for example, at that moment. We didn't have many things, to be honest. And I definitely think that the idea of synthesis may be reborn if there is a will from developers to do that. And I think many people would have nostalgia about synthesis, and if that mechanic was implemented in right way, it could have been still a pretty fun one, just as Ultimatum. But Ultimatum doesn't need as big of a rework in terms of how it will work. But synthesis. You have Sanctum, you have something quite similar in feel, but just a different atmosphere, different style to it. But I don't know. For me specifically, I definitely nowadays, especially after 4 years gone, I definitely think quite good about Synthesis itself, even though I hated the league whenever it was current league, and I didn't really want to do all those constant replacements of tiles and stuff. So whenever the league was up, it was kind of a disaster. But if you were to look at it from a 4-year perspective, it was definitely a good one in terms of atmosphere, in terms of just Venarius memories, his shattered memories that you were finding, Cortex fights. Yeah, and just the, to be honest, the view of layouts of those maps, you definitely feel something good whenever you see those in an old trailer or in an old gameplay. So yes, Synthesis was a disaster, but I think many people will turn, if they were to turn their attention towards the Synthesis now, they will say that it was quite a memorable time in Path of Exile. Thanks for watching, hope you're having a good time, goodbye.